Everyone around me swore I was fragile, like the girl made of glass who couldn't be trusted to breathe without supervision. They whispered, hovered, and treated me like I was one step from collapse. But here's the truth. I was never sick. Not once. And when I finally uncovered why my family insisted on keeping me ill, the truth was darker than anything I could have imagined. My name is Claire, and for as long as I can remember, my life has been defined by limits. Not the kind you choose, like curfews or diets, but the kind placed on you by people who claim they know what's best. I grew up in a quiet suburb outside Portland, Oregon, in a house that always smelled faintly of antiseptic and lavender candles. My mom, Julia, was the type of woman who curated everything, our kitchen counter spotless, our living room lined with herbal teas, vitamins, and immune boosters. My dad, Paul, worked long hours in IT, but whenever he was home, he reminded me in hushed tones, "Don't overexert yourself, honey. You need rest." And then there was my older sister, Emily. She was 2 years older and already off at college by the time my story truly began, but during high school, she played her role in the narrative too. My protector, always quick to remind me to sit down when I stood too long, to drink water when I coughed, to take the endless supplements mom lined up on the counter. On the surface, it all looked like love. Who wouldn't want a family so invested in their well-being? To outsiders, we were picture perfect. The caring mother, the watchful father, the dutiful sister, and me, the delicate daughter they all adored. And I believed it. When you grow up being told your body is weak, you stop questioning it. I wasn't allowed to play sports. Running around at recess meant risking collapse. Birthday parties. Only if mom vetted the snacks and made sure there were no danger triggers. Even sleepovers were rare. She claimed I might need medical care at any moment, and who else but her could provide it? So, while other kids built memories at soccer games and summer camps, I built mine from the confines of our house. My companions were my sketchbooks, stacks of novels, and the quiet hum of my air purifier. By high school, I'd gotten used to the routine, the daily vitamins, the careful diet, the constant reminders of my condition. My friends, what few I had, treated me with a mix of sympathy and distance. It was hard to be close to someone who was, apparently, always on the brink of collapse. The strange part? I never felt sick. Sure, I get tired sometimes, like any teenager, but the dizziness, the weakness, the symptoms mom always warned about, they never showed up. If I ever voiced this, mom would just smile sadly and say, "That's because we're managing it so well, sweetheart. Without us, you'd be in danger." And I wanted to believe her. It felt comforting, in a twisted way, to imagine that my family was saving me every day, that my good health was proof of their vigilance. But deep down, tiny cracks of doubt began to form. If I was truly sick, why had no doctor ever confirmed it? Why were my checkups always with the same family practitioner mom insisted on, never a specialist? Why did mom keep the records locked in a drawer I wasn't allowed to touch? Still, I swallowed those doubts, telling myself that parents knew best. Life went on in its quiet, controlled rhythm. School, home, rest, repeat. I was the fragile girl who sat out gym class, who never went on field trips, who always had an excuse when friends asked me to hang out. But beneath the false stability, something darker was brewing. Because pretending to be sick when you're not, it isn't stability. It's a cage. And sooner or later, cages crack. The first warning bell came in the form of a birthday party. It was my 17th, a milestone year that most girls my age celebrated with friends, music, and maybe a taste of freedom. But for me, it was just another day inside the carefully constructed bubble of my family. Mom had insisted on a quiet celebration at home. She baked a sugar-free cake with almond flour, though not almonds, of course, too risky, she said, even though I had no nut allergy. Dad strung up pastel balloons in the living room, and Emily, home for the weekend, handed me a soft, floral dress as my present. "Something comfortable," she said gently, as if denim jeans would have snapped my bones in half. At first, I tried to enjoy it. I smiled for pictures, blew out the candles, and thanked everyone. But the cracks showed when I asked a simple question. "Can I go out tonight?" "Just to dinner with Maya and the girls. They're planning something special." The room went still. Mom's face dropped instantly, like I'd suggested cliff diving. "Out? At night? Claire, you know that's not safe." I frowned. "It's just dinner. At the Italian place down the street. You'll be exposed to all kinds of triggers," she snapped. "Crowds, food we can't verify, stress on your body, absolutely not." Emily tried to soften the blow. "Maybe we can bring the girls here instead? That way you're safe." Safe. That word again. It felt less like protection and more like a chain. Dad cleared his throat, avoiding my eyes. "Your mom's right. We can't risk it, honey." Something inside me cracked. I wasn't asking to run a marathon. I just wanted dinner with friends. And yet they acted like the world outside would swallow me whole. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling and wondered, what exactly are they protecting me from? Because the truth was, I'd never collapsed. Never had an attack. Never once felt the fragility they warned about. The second warning bell came a few weeks later, during gym class. I'd been excused from physical education my whole life. Official notes from my doctor always stated I was medically unfit for strenuous activity. Normally, I sat on the bleachers and read while the others ran laps. But that day, Coach Davis was short-staffed and distracted. "Claire, why don't you join in for once?" he called, tossing me a volleyball. I froze. Mom had always warned that exercise could trigger episodes. But what if she was wrong? The ball smacked into my hands, and before I could think, I was on the court. My classmates stared, shocked. For 10 minutes I played. Awkwardly, yes, but I played, jumping, running, laughing. And nothing happened. No dizziness, no fainting, no collapse. just sweat and adrenaline. When class ended, I was flushed and breathless, but I felt alive in a way I never had before. Dana, a girl who barely spoke to me usually, grinned and said, "See? You're fine. You're better than me at this." The validation felt electric. But it also left me unsettled. If I could play volleyball without issue, what else had my family been lying about? That evening, I told Mom what happened. Her reaction chilled me. "You what?" she demanded, her face draining of color. "Claire, do you understand what could have happened? You could have collapsed right there in front of everyone." "But I didn't," I argued. "I was fine. Completely fine." She slammed the counter with her hand. "Don't you ever do that again. You're sick, whether you feel it or not. Do you understand me? Sick." Her voice cracked on the last word, but her eyes were hard. That was when the first real seed of doubt planted itself deep in me. Because for the first time, I wasn't just wondering if I was truly fragile, I was starting to wonder if my family wanted me to believe it, whether it was true or not. After the volleyball incident, the atmosphere at home shifted. Mom became more watchful, more controlling, as though my brief taste of freedom had triggered a full-scale lockdown. It started with subtle things. She began double-checking my backpack every morning, just to make sure I had my water bottle, vitamins, and the packet of supplements she insisted I carry. She started texting me constantly during school hours. "Are you feeling dizzy? Did you eat the snacks I packed? Don't push yourself." At first, I thought it was just an overreaction. But soon, her vigilance turned suffocating. She stopped letting me walk to school with friends, insisting she drive me. When I protested, she said, "It's safer this way. What if you faint on the sidewalk?" If I lingered too long after class, she was there, waiting by the gate, scanning the crowd until she spotted me. Dad wasn't much better. He tiptoed around me like I was a ticking bomb. "Don't stress yourself with homework," he'd say. "Grades don't matter as much as your health." Every word reinforced the same message. I was too weak for normal life. But the worst was when Emily came home for winter break. I thought she'd be my ally, someone closer to my age who'd understand my frustration. Instead, she doubled down. "Claire, stop fighting them," she whispered one night when I complained. "They're just trying to protect you. You don't know what it's like for Mom, how scared she gets that you'll collapse when she's not there." But nothing ever happens. *T back. Doesn't that tell you something? Emily's expression hardened. "It tells me Mom is doing her job. Without her, who knows where you'd be." Her words stung worse than Mom's lectures. It meant my own sister saw me not as a person, but as a patient. At school, the isolation grew too. Rumors spread fast after gym class. Some kids whispered that I'd lied about being sick to get out of PE all these years. Others joked that I was the miracle girl who survived exercise. Instead of making me feel normal, the volleyball game only made me stand out more. Maya, one of my oldest friends, pulled back. "It's too much drama, Claire," she said bluntly. "Every time we invite you out, your mom freaks out. I can't deal with it anymore." Her words sliced me open. For so long, I believed my condition pushed people away. But now, I realized it wasn't the sickness. It was the story of sickness my family built around me. The pressure mounted daily. Every time I pushed against their narrative, Mom tightened the reins. When I asked to join art club, she said, "Too tiring." When I wanted to apply for a summer program, she said, "Too stressful." One night, I overheard her on the phone. Her voice was low, urgent. "She's getting rebellious. If she keeps pushing, someone might find out. We can't let that happen." My stomach dropped. Find out what? The isolation became unbearable. Friends distant, teachers convinced I was fragile, family suffocating me with their care. It felt like the walls of my life were closing in, every path out blocked. I started sneaking tiny rebellions, jogging in place in my room late at night, skipping the pills Mom left on the counter, eating food she hadn't approved. And every time, nothing happened. No collapse, no fainting, no medical episode. Each secret victory felt like oxygen, but it also made one thing clear. My family wasn't protecting me. They were controlling me, and I was running out of space to breathe. The cracks in my false reality shattered on a cold January morning. It started with a simple accident. Mom had left her office door ajar, a room she usually kept locked. While she was busy on a phone call, I slipped inside, telling myself I just wanted to borrow a pen. But what I really wanted was to peek at the forbidden drawer where she kept all my medical records. The drawer was unlocked. My hands shook as I pulled it open. Inside were dozens of folders labeled with my name, neatly stacked. My breath caught. Finally, the truth. I grabbed the top file, flipped it open, and my world tilted. Every document was fake. The medical records were just printouts from a template, filled in with my name and a made-up diagnosis. Chronic immune deficiency disorder. Except the dates didn't match, the signatures were photocopied, and some of the doctors listed weren't even practicing anymore. One paper was laughably obvious. It had the wrong hospital logo. My stomach lurched. These weren't records of my sickness. They were props. I kept digging, pulling out folder after folder. Same thing, fabrications, letters typed in Mom's careful style, papers stamped with forged seals. And then I found the receipts. Bank statements showed medical expenses charged to insurance, but the money had been rerouted to a different account. Mom's account. She wasn't just keeping me sick, she was profiting from it. I staggered back, bile rising in my throat. My entire life, every pill, every restriction, every warning, wasn't about my health. It was about control and money. Behind me, the door creaked. "Claire." Mom's voice was sharp, cold. I spun around to see her standing in the doorway, phone still in hand, eyes blazing. What are you doing? I held up the file, my hands trembling. What is this? These are fake. Her expression didn't flicker. Put those back. No. My voice cracked. You've been lying to me my whole life. I'm not sick. Am I? For a long moment, silence stretched between us. Finally, she sighed, closing the door behind her. You don't understand. You've never understood. Then explain it to me. I shouted. Her eyes softened with something almost like pity. If people believe you're sick, they protect you. They make allowances. They don't expect too much. And yes, sometimes, insurance pays for treatments. That money keeps this family afloat. My jaw dropped. You've been using me. My whole life. For money. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Don't be so dramatic. You're still alive, aren't you? And safe. I've kept you safe. Safe. That word again. Only now I understood what it really meant. Controlled. I shook my head, tears blurring my vision. I trusted you. You'll thank me one day, she said calmly. Out there, the world is cruel. But in here, you're cared for. Isn't that better? It wasn't. In that moment, I knew the truth. I was never sick. My mother had built a prison out of fake diagnoses and forged documents. And my father, my sister, they'd gone along with it, whether out of fear or convenience. The revelation burned through me like fire. My life had been stolen. My freedom, my friendships, my chance at normalcy, all sacrificed for her obsession and her lies. And I knew then that I couldn't just accept it. If Mom wanted me to stay her fragile little doll forever, she was about to learn just how strong I really was. The revelation of my mother's lies didn't break me, it lit a fire. For 17 years, I'd lived inside the walls she built, but now that I saw the truth, I refused to stay caged. The question was how to fight back. I couldn't just storm into school shouting that I wasn't sick. Everyone had bought into my mother's story for years. Teachers, friends, even neighbors thought of me as the fragile girl. Without proof, I'd sound delusional. And worse, Mom would spin it back on me, claim I was mentally unstable. But I had one advantage. Dana. She was the only person who'd seen me play volleyball without incident, the only one who'd noticed how healthy I seemed compared to the story my family told. One night, I showed her the forged files I'd taken photos of on my phone. Her eyes widened. Claire, this is huge. You need to go to someone official. Who? I asked bitterly. The same administrators who let me skip PE for years? They'll just call my mom. Dana thought for a moment, then said, what about a doctor? A real doctor. Get tested. If you're fine, that's proof. It sounded simple, but sneaking around my mother wasn't easy. She hovered constantly. So I made a plan. I told her I was staying late at the library for a research project. Instead, Dana drove me to an urgent care clinic across town. For the first time in my life, I sat in a doctor's office without Mom beside me. I explained everything, the supposed illness, the restricted life, the forged records. The doctor listened carefully, ordered blood work, ran tests. When the results came back, the verdict was clear. I was perfectly healthy. No immune deficiency. No chronic illness. Nothing. Relief and rage crashed over me in equal measure. Proof. I finally had proof. But how to use it? That's where Jenna came in. She was Dana's cousin, a paralegal who'd dealt with guardianship cases before. When she heard my story, she leaned forward, eyes sharp. Claire, this isn't just overprotective parenting. This is medical fraud. Insurance fraud. Emotional abuse. Your mom could face charges for this. The word fraud made my head spin. My whole life, stolen for money. Jenna suggested a bold move, expose the truth at the upcoming parent-teacher conference. The whole school community would be there. Teachers, parents, administrators. If I presented my medical proof, there'd be no easy way for Mom to bury it. The plan terrified me. But the thought of another year trapped in her lie terrified me more. The week leading up to the conference was tense. Mom hovered constantly, suspicious of my quiet mood. She even tried to keep me home from school one day, claiming I looked pale. But I pushed through, clutching the folder Jenna had helped me compile, medical test results, photos of the forged files, and even a written statement from the urgent care doctor. On the night of the conference, the school cafeteria buzzed with chatter. Parents crowded around teachers, discussing grades and progress. Mom walked beside me, smiling like the perfect parent. Dad trailed behind, silent as always. My hands shook, but I reminded myself of the cage I'd lived in. This was my chance to break it open. As we reached my homeroom teacher's table, I cleared my throat. Actually, I said loudly, I have something to share. Mom's smile froze. Claire, not now. But I ignored her. I pulled out the folder, laying it on the table for the teacher to see. These are my medical results. They prove I'm not sick. My mom has been lying to everyone. 4 years. Gasps rippled through the nearby parents. My teacher blinked, flipping through the documents, eyes widening. Mom lunged forward, hissing, Claire, stop this nonsense right now. But it was too late. Jenna had arranged for the principal to be there, and Dana had recorded the whole thing. The evidence was undeniable. For the first time, my voice was louder than my mother's. And I wasn't backing down. The cafeteria went silent after my declaration, the air so thick with shock it felt like everyone had stopped breathing. My folder of documents lay open on the table, proof of everything I'd been too afraid to say. Teachers, parents, and students nearby leaned closer, whispers hissing through the room like sparks. My mother's mask cracked instantly. "Claire, enough," she snapped, her voice low but venomous. "You're embarrassing yourself, and this family." But I held my ground. "No, Mom. You've been embarrassing me my entire life. Pretending I'm sick when I'm not. Lying to my teachers. Forging medical records. Taking insurance money in my name." The principal, Mr. Reynolds, stepped forward, eyes wide as he skimmed the documents. "Mrs. Carter, is this true?" Mom let out a sharp laugh, brittle and desperate. "Of course not. She's confused. She's been unstable lately, imagining things. You can't take the word of a teenager over her mother." My chest burned with rage. "Unstable." I turned to the crowd, my voice rising. "Then explain why a real doctor ran tests last week, without you there, and declared me perfectly healthy. Explain why your records are full of fake signatures and outdated hospital logos. Explain the insurance payments that went straight into your account." Gasps rippled through the cafeteria. Parents turned to stare at her, whispers louder now, edged with disgust. Mom's face twisted. "You don't understand," but before she could spin another lie, Dana stepped forward, phone in hand. "Actually, we do. I recorded everything Claire told me, and we have copies of the fake documents. Plus, her test results are notarized. You can try to lie, but the truth is out." The room erupted. Teachers murmured to one another, some shaking their heads in disbelief. A few parents pulled their kids closer, like they didn't want them anywhere near my mom. The principal's voice cut through the noise. "Mrs. Carter, I'm afraid we need to involve the authorities. This is beyond the scope of the school." Mom's composure finally shattered. Her face flushed deep red as she screamed, "Everything I did was to protect her. You don't know what it's like, watching your child vulnerable, fragile, one mistake away from disaster." Her words echoed across the cafeteria, but instead of sympathy, there was only silence. And then, applause. Tentative at first, then stronger. Parents and teachers clapped, not for her, but for me. For standing up. For exposing the truth. Security was called. Within minutes, 2 officers arrived and escorted my mother out. She ranted the entire way, shouting about how ungrateful I was, how everything she'd done had been for me. But her voice faded as the doors closed behind her. I stood frozen, my hands trembling, adrenaline surging through me. For so long, I dreamed of being free. Now the cage was broken, the bars scattered at my feet. Dad just stood there, pale and silent. When the officers left, he muttered, "I didn't know," but the words rang hollow. Maybe he hadn't forged the papers, but he'd let it happen. He'd chosen silence over protecting me. Mr. Reynolds placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "Claire, you're incredibly brave. We'll make sure this is investigated properly. You're safe now." Safe. The word no longer felt like chains. It felt like wings. That night, I went home with Dana and her family. For the first time, I slept without my mother hovering at the door, without pills on the nightstand, without the crushing weight of lies. The final showdown wasn't just about proving the truth, it was about reclaiming myself. And as the applause from the cafeteria echoed in my memory, I knew I'd never let anyone silence me again. The days after the conference felt surreal. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waking up to my mother's watchful eyes or my father's quiet sighs. I was staying with Dana's family while investigators combed through the evidence. And every morning, instead of vitamins and warnings, I woke to sunlight streaming through the guest room window and the smell of pancakes Dana's mom made for breakfast. Freedom felt strange, almost too big. At first, I didn't know what to do with it. I'd sit on the edge of the bed, staring at my backpack, half expecting Mom to barge in and order me to take pills. When no one came, I'd feel both relief and panic. Years of conditioning don't vanish overnight. But slowly, I began to breathe. The investigation moved quickly. With Jenna's help, the authorities uncovered the full scope of Mom's scheme: insurance fraud, forged documents, fabricated diagnoses. The fake medical records stretched back over a decade. The money trail was undeniable. When officers searched our house, they found boxes of unused medications, vitamins, and files that matched the ones I'd already photographed. It turned out my mom hadn't just built a lie around me, she'd built an entire identity for herself as the selfless mother of a sick child. She'd been praised in local circles for her dedication, had even received small grants and charity donations for medical expenses. Every dollar was another brick in my cage. She was arrested within a week. The trial is still pending, but the charges are serious: insurance fraud, medical neglect, emotional abuse. For the first time, accountability isn't just a dream, it's real. As for my dad, the investigators questioned him too. He admitted he'd suspected something was off, but claimed he didn't know the extent. I don't know if that's true. Maybe he chose ignorance. Maybe silence was easier than confrontation. Either way, his words don't comfort me. He let it happen. And forgiveness won't come easily. Emily called me from college, sobbing apologies. "I believed her, Claire. I thought she was protecting you. I didn't know." I wanted to scream at her, to ask how she could have ignored the truth right in front of her. But instead, I told her flatly, believing a lie doesn't make it true. We haven't spoken much since. But while my family crumbled, my own life finally began. At school, people looked at me differently. Not with pity, but with respect. Teachers apologized for buying into my mother's narrative. Students who had mocked me for being fragile now avoided my eyes, guilt etched on their faces. Dana, though, she never wavered. She stood beside me every step of the way. One afternoon, we sat in the park, the winter air crisp and cold. I stretched out on the grass, laughing as the wind whipped my hair. I feel alive, I told her. You always were, she said softly. You just had to believe it. Those words stuck with me. Now, instead of vitamins, I carry plans, college applications, dreams of studying psychology, of helping others escape the cages built for them. I've started journaling, sketching, filling the blank pages with color instead of fear. Sometimes the trauma creeps back. I'll wake in the night, heart pounding, convinced I forgot to take a pill that never mattered. But then I remind myself, I'm not sick. I never was. And each day that truth grows stronger. The emotional aftermath isn't simple. It's messy. Part of me still aches with betrayal. Part of me grieves the childhood stolen from me. But another part, stronger every day, feels something new. Hope. Because I've learned something powerful. Lies can build cages, but truth can shatter them. My mother thought she could control me forever, that she could convince the world I was fragile. But in the end, she only convinced me of one thing, that I am stronger than she ever wanted me to be.